What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kyle Johnson. Thank you so much for stopping by. Now, this is probably the closest to like a podcast I'll ever have. It's not like a full-length podcast, but I wanted to do some videos where I kind of sat here at my desk in front of my mic here and just talked about the state of WWE. So if you enjoy this video and more content like it, be sure to give me a subscribe, tap the like button, tap the little bell for notifications because I will be coming your way every single week with brand new wrestling content. I'm really starting to upload more and more on this channel, so it would really be to your benefit to subscribe. Anyway, let's get into the video. So the main thing I really wanted to talk about in this video is kind of the lost art of booking, or booking 101, that I think WWE lacks right now. More or less, I just kind of find it lacking within WWE creative right now. I know things are kind of chaotic with injuries and everything else, but I think WWE lacks a certain kind of consistency with their booking. And I think this year is a really good example, but to be totally honest with you, I think this is not something that's necessarily new to the current regime of WWE. So I know consistency can mean a lot of different things, and I want to kind of break down what I necessarily mean by that. First and foremost, let's talk about the most recent thing that happened in WWE, which is Cody Rhodes winning back the WWE Championship from Drew McIntyre. A very polarizing subject right now within the internet wrestling community. A lot of people are upset. A lot of people wanted to see Drew McIntyre retain the championship. A lot of people don't like seeing Cody Rhodes continually in this position. And I gotta say, I think this is entirely WWE's fault. Now, if you ask me where I stand on this, I like the idea of Cody versus Randy a lot more than I like the idea of Drew versus Randy or the idea of a fatal four-way match. If you saw my video outlining WWE's WrestleMania problem that I filmed about a month ago, I was saying that WrestleMania had a serious night one main event problem. There wasn't necessarily a story or a match that really screamed night one main event to me. Of course, we had CM Punk and Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship as night two main event. That makes total sense. But in terms of night one main event, we didn't really have anything. I mean, you did have like Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vaquer on the women's side, which is turning out to be a great story. I'm not necessarily sure the star power is there quite yet, not saying that they will never get to that point. I'm sure both stars can get to that level of stardom, but I don't think they're there yet. And then, of course, alternatively, you have Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley, which maybe star power-wise could sell as a night one main event, but story-wise, absolutely not. I mean, we have them on TV right now comparing, their body parts, so that story doesn't necessarily scream WrestleMania main event. And could you sell a fatal four-way match for the WWE Championship as the main event of WrestleMania? You could, but I think the direction in which WWE is going, obviously the plan is to go with Randy Orton winning number 15. I think that's the direction WWE is going here. I think they're kind of booking Randy. I think the story is more Randy's journey to number 15. I think that's going to be the big story coming out of this. And I think if Randy were to win the title in a fatal four-way match, I think that the impact wouldn't be as strong as if he won it in a singles environment. And yeah, you could accomplish that with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, but I think, and we'll dive more in depth into this later, but I think it's just a thing of overall direction. I think WWE's overall direction for a while was Cody and Randy, and they abandoned it for a while, and now they're going back to it because of WrestleMania ticket sales. And again, I'm going to stress, this is not Drew McIntyre's fault. This is entirely WWE's fault. I'm not going to come on here and say Drew McIntyre is a bad champion or that he can't draw for the WrestleMania main event. I'm not trying to say that any of those are true. What I'm trying to say is I think Drew McIntyre's WWE Championship win was incredibly ill-timed. I think if this title reign happens in any other time, any other place, any other season of WWE, I think it works out great. I think Drew McIntyre could hold on to it 100 days, 150 days, 200 days even. I think Drew McIntyre could have a hell of a run as champion any other time, but they had him win the championship so close to the road to WrestleMania when it was so clearly not the direction that they wanted to go in. It was clear that they wanted to keep the title on Cody and that Drew McIntyre's title win was very much like a, fine kind of thing by WWE and just giving that to fans because that's what fans wanted to see. They abandoned their long-term direction, and I genuinely believe that it's better to just not give the fans something than to give them hope and then disappoint them. I think what WWE did was they gave a lot of Drew McIntyre fans hope. I think they gave Drew McIntyre fans hope that he would walk into WrestleMania as the WWE champion, and they just ripped that away from them. And of course now people are disappointed. Of course people are upset because they wanted to see Drew McIntyre walk into Mania. He was this close. He got through the Royal Rumble. He got through the Elimination Chamber. There's no more pit stops. We were there. We were so close. And then WWE just went back to Cody. I genuinely think the reaction would have been better if Cody just retained over Drew McIntyre. I think if you had Jacob Fatu cost Drew McIntyre the title and you just consistently run that story from now till Mania, Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre, which I think they're going to end up doing anyway, I think that genuinely works better in Drew McIntyre's favor because if you really wanted to make Drew look good, you could have Drew even win the feud against Jacob Fatu. You could have him consistently go after Jacob Fatu from, back when Drew won the title all the way to now and to the road to WrestleMania and just build that feud up and have Drew win the feud against Jacob Fatu and then maybe next year sometime go after the WWE Championship and win the title, maybe at a SummerSlam or something, to where Drew can actually get a long reign as champion without it absolutely scrambling WWE's long-term direction. I think just because you had Drew McIntyre win the WWE Championship, hold it for 2 months, and then lose the WWE Championship, I think overall that made him look worse on the road to WrestleMania than if he just never won the title to begin with. As I was kind of alluding to earlier, I think that this speaks to a bigger problem within WWE Creative of not having a consistent plan, a consistent flow of creative, which Triple H claims all the time to have, but literally all evidence points to the contrary. Like, not to sound like Paul Heyman here, but Paul Heyman actually has a point. I genuinely believe that right now, as we stand, we're in March? Almost April. It's almost WrestleMania. I think at this point in time, WWE should have their main event, their marquee of WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia. I think they should have it relatively locked right now. I think they should have their marquee matches going into WrestleMania the following year tentatively locked. And I know things happen of, injuries and stuff like that they can't control. Fine, whatever. But if you have a tentative plan, which I think they did with Randy and Cody of like, okay, we're going to do this at Mania, and they're kind of slowly adjacently building to it. At least that's the vibe that I got with like the Night of Champions match and all these things. I thought they were subtly building to Cody and Randy, and I think that build would have been natural if they just kept it going all year long instead of doing a pit stop with Drew McIntyre and throwing it into absolute chaos. I think if they would have just stayed the course and done Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania, it would have been fine, and we wouldn't have had any of this chaos. But because WWE decided to go so far off course and go like, oh, here, damn, I think that's what caused the major issue. Just stay the course. Unless there's an injury or something like that, there's no reason for you to divert from the course. All it takes is a little bit of foresight, a little bit of thinking. Because if you think about it like this, WrestleMania is WWE's season finale. right? And the year building up to it is the season, right? And if you think of any other TV show, like every episode builds to the season finale, the big payoff. And that's what WrestleMania should be, which is why I think they should have the main event matches, the marquee matches of WrestleMania at the very least, semi-locked in by this time so that after WrestleMania, they can hit the ground running and be like, okay, this is what we're building to. Let's start building it. It'll tell you who to push. It'll tell you what direction to go in. It'll tell you it'll give you that roadmap of, okay, this is what we need to do with this star to get them to this place by the end of the year. And I know what you're thinking. I know you're thinking like, Kyle, that's absolutely ridiculous. What happens if, somebody gets unexpectedly over? Do you expect WWE to just completely ignore that and not change direction? No, I don't. And this is where I think another fundamental booking flaw comes in from WWE's part. Let's take a look at Jey Uso. Jey Uso is somebody who caught heat. He got incredibly over. He got extremely hot. People got incredibly behind him. And WWE said, you know what? Screw it. And they gave him the World Heavyweight Championship. And that crashed and burned. We saw that, they failed in that regard. But if you look at something like, again, WWE has done it in the past and it's worked. If you look at something like Gunther, right? Gunther, he won the Intercontinental Championship. He held it for 600-something days. He got, really popular. He got the fans behind him, and people were like, wow, this is a legit main event player here. He needs to go after the world title. And he lost that Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, and then the next year proceeded to go straight to the world title scene, and now he's in the main event scene. Like, it's a formula that works. They tried it with Jey Uso, which is they gave him the Intercontinental Championship for a little bit after he got hot, which I think should have lasted a lot longer than it did. WWE just abandoned that after 2 weeks, so, there wasn't really anything there. But I think this is what the mid-card is built for. I genuinely believe that WWE should be using its mid-card and mid-card titles as a tool to test out new main eventers. If somebody gets incredibly hot or incredibly popular, give them a mid-card title. Give them the US or the Intercontinental Championship, and then book them as if they are holding the world title. See how it goes. Do they succeed in this area? Do they crumble under the pressure? Do they not deliver in the way WWE expected to? If that happens, fine, you leave them down here. But if they go straight to the moon and they're like, oh my God, they're just getting more and more popular, they're doing really well, okay, now we could take them from here and put them here in the main event scene. WWE literally did this as recently as last year with Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker won the Intercontinental Championship. He held the Intercontinental Championship. At WrestleMania, he lost the Intercontinental Championship, and we saw it on Unreal. Triple H took him aside backstage after that match and said, tomorrow night you're aligning with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. You're moving from here to here. And then they built the following year around Braun Breaker. And WWE fans always complain about how there's no new stars in the main event. This is how you get stars in the main event. I genuinely believe that if this is how WWE books, I think every single year you should be having somebody going from here, at least one person going from here, breaking through, and coming to here. At least one every single year. You do that, you have a steady flow of main eventers, and you have this wonderful tool that is NXT, that when somebody leaves here, well, they can come up to here, and then boom, break through the ceiling, come here. It's a steady climb upwards. We found in the past that sudden pushes don't always work, but at the same time, keeping somebody down here for a long period of time also doesn't work. There's examples of that, like with LA Knight, who at least his first US title reign I thought was a major success, and was like, okay, now we've shown that he can hang in the main event scene. It's just the fact that Triple H refuses to crown him up here. But LA Knight proved himself down here, broke through into here. WWE just refused to act on it. You have someone like Trick Williams right now and Obafemi who are main event adjacent. They're not necessarily in the circle, but they are interacting with people who are in that circle. So they're right there. They're main event adjacent. So I think trying to squeeze Trick Williams into a main event Mania match this year would be a mistake. Even though he's up here already, I think squeezing him in to a main event spot of WrestleMania would have been a mistake, which is why WWE didn't do it, and they kind of kept him on the outskirts, is because now, after WrestleMania, you have a reset. So maybe you can be like, okay, Trick isn't factored into the main event of WrestleMania this year, but let's try to factor him in to the marquee of Mania Saudi, and we have all of next year to build around Trick Williams and start building him up. You had someone who broke through from here to here. Okay, so next year, it's all about Trick Williams. We have a new guy here, but we're not disrupting the flow of this year's WrestleMania. Let this year's WrestleMania come and go, and I know a lot of fans disagree with that too, because fans see somebody that they really like, and they're like, wow, I would love for them to be up here. I would love for them to be in the main event of WrestleMania. Give it time. Just be patient. At the same time, I can't entirely blame you, because WWE doesn't always work on that system where, you know, if somebody does really well here, they break into the main event scene. So again, when fans get upset or don't have faith in WWE to pull the trigger when it's time, I understand that completely, which is why I think WWE should be focused on creating a steady system, because you have people up here, and I get the concerns, people like CM Punk, like Roman Reigns, like Randy Orton, who aren't going to be here forever, who only have a couple years left. They're kind of on their way out, so that when they eventually go out, you have people coming in to replace them. And I think WWE's on the verge of doing that. They have guys like Javon and Trick and Oba who came up from NXT, who are having incredible runs right now, who are being used incredibly well, and clearly, WWE executives are very high on them. If they hit the ground running with these three stars coming out of WrestleMania, I genuinely believe the three of them could be involved in the marquee next year in Saudi. And I think that's how the system needs to work. I think if you use the system as a straight line, and the people who work out, great, they break through to here. The people who don't really have a great reign, okay, they can stay down here for now and develop a little bit more. But the people who break through, let's use them up here. Don't be afraid to give guys who are getting over mid-card titles. Don't jump them immediately to the world title scene, because then you also elevate your mid-card titles of giving someone who's incredibly popular, who's incredibly over, a mid-card title. And why can't we book them like they have a world championship reign? Because if they have the mid-card title, as crazy as it sounds to say, if they crash and burn, if they fail, it's really no harm, no foul. You just have them drop the mid-card title to somebody else. And it's really no harm, no foul. Whereas I think why Jey Uso has fallen off so hard is you've had someone like Jey Uso who was pushed straight to here, and he didn't necessarily work out, but now he's playing in an area where he doesn't necessarily belong, or where fans don't really want to see him, so people are getting sick of him. People are getting annoyed with him. Alternatively, you have a lot of guys up here, and all the time, not all of them are always going to be around the WWE Championship picture. I think WWE shouldn't be afraid to bring some of these guys down here to elevate this area. Say if you have a Trick Williams win the US title right now, don't be afraid to have like a Cody Rhodes when he loses the WWE Championship come down to here, feud with Trick for the US title, elevate Trick and elevate the title while you're at it. These areas should be fluid between one another. You should be able to move people up and down and all around. There shouldn't be this brick wall that is separating them. And I think WWE has that problem right now, where they're kind of putting a brick wall there, and only the strongest can break through. And once you break through, you can't really go back down. That's the other problem with WWE's booking right now is they don't allow the people who are up here to kind of go back down and help the divisions down here. Again, we've proven that this can work. WWE themselves are doing it right now with the women's tag team division. We have proof. The women's tag team division became the best division on TV because they brought down an Io Sky, a Rhea Ripley, a Charlotte Flair, an Alexa Bliss, a Bayley. They brought down all these main event stars to this tag team division, and then the tag team division started to flourish. They can do the same thing with the mid-card divisions if they allowed their marquee stars to go down there, but they don't. I think if WWE genuinely thought of things this way, I think it would help tremendously with consistency in booking. Because then for WrestleMania, your mid-card area, that can be a little more fluid. You can kind of build that one as you go, but your marquee attractions should be the things that you're building to all year long. Like, I feel like they were kind of doing it with Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins, where I predicted at the beginning of last year, after WrestleMania, that Braun and Seth would be the Mania match. And I would have been right if it wasn't for the injury, and that's something WWE can't control. But what I'm saying is the formulas are out there, and it's been proven that they can work. But WWE refuses to use them as a tool. WWE should be using these things as a tool. They should be using the formats that work in terms of booking. Instead, they do things like they see that the Bloodline story was a major success, and they try to keep repeating that and failing each time. But when it comes to actual booking philosophy in different structures and formats that have worked in the past, refusing to replicate them. Like, for example, I think WWE just found the formula for NXT call-ups. They call up, if like Trick Williams and Obafemi, they were in the main event scene of NXT. The problem with someone like a Carmelo Hayes, who was also in the main event of NXT, he came up and he like feuded with The Miz. He did a lot of stupid stuff, which stunted his growth. And now he's starting to grow a little more now that he's doing the stuff with the U.S. title and he's doing great in that division. That's all well and good. But WWE now has this problem where Carmelo Hayes could have been a star this year, but instead he was held back a little bit by that stuff. Meanwhile, Trick and Oba, they went straight from the main event of NXT, straight to the main event of WWE. They kept that main event momentum going, and these guys are stars because of it. So I hope WWE continues to use that formula now that they found that formula that works, just like the formulas with someone like Gunther or Lyra Valkyria in terms of turning somebody into a main event star. I feel like WWE, the formulas exist, they just don't use them. And I think this year especially has taught us how crazy stuff can be in terms of when you don't plan ahead. Because if you don't plan ahead and you add that to the injuries of Seth and Bronson and Braun, when you have that domino effect, but then you also have a domino effect of you change things up at the last second over here, now everything's in chaos. Instead of this one tiny area that's in chaos that you need to fix, now everything's in chaos. And that's how you end up with a situation like we had this year at Mania, where the wheels kind of came off the wagon because everything was out of whack. Anyway, that's my little rant. That's how I think WWE should be running their creative. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. And let me know if you like these videos. I'll definitely do more of them. I enjoy making them. So leave a comment down below. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. I will see you guys next time.